Sir Peter Hendy has spent a lifetime in transport. He began his journey in 1975 as a London Transport graduate trainee and has 14 years' experience at Transport for London. He's been chairman of Network Rail since 2015 and so has overall control of an organisation responsible for keeping the nation's trains on the move and tracks, signals and stations maintained. We spoke to him about the current and future challenges that Network Rail face.
So thank you very much indeed for joining us, Sir Peter. Let me start by asking you, 43 years in the transport industry, you're clearly a lover of all things transport. You even drive your own route master bus, is that right?
It is, yeah.
So what is it about the industry that initially attracted it to you, and why do you think a young person should go into this industry?
So I was originally attracted because I'm an enthusiast, which is why I've got a bus or two. But what I've learned over the last years is that there are two things that make this industry. One is people. It's full of amazing people who work really hard. The vocational commitment on the railway is immense. People work harder when things get more difficult. And also you're making a contribution to life. So the railway brings connectivity, and connectivity creates economic growth, jobs and housing. So it's a worthwhile thing to do, and it's full of interesting people and a great career.
You've been chairman of Network Rail since 2015. How would you describe your job description?
So Network Rail is a public organisation. It was effectively renationalised. It's responsible for and owns the entire railway infrastructure in Britain, stations, track, viaducts, tunnels, all that sort of stuff. It's a very big organisation. It's got a turnover of several £billion and it employs 30-odd thousand people of its own. And it's so my job is to help the chief executive and the executive run the company, and to relate to our political shareholder and to a far wider set of stakeholders, including the whole of the railway industry, about what we're trying to do and about how we work together with others to achieve it.
Often rail is in the news when there is something wrong. So how do you think the positive side of rail can be demonstrated to the public?
I think that the way in which we can tell the positive stories is about the contribution of the railway to economic growth and job creation in a difficult economic time, and also the huge number of jobs, not only which Network Rail has itself, but which it creates in the railway supply industry. As I say, we employ 30,000 people of our own. We must support at least a couple of 100,000 other jobs in the supply industry, and that's a really important contribution to the economy.
What role do you think the rail supply community have to play in delivering more from our rail network?
Many politicians assume that somehow Network Rail spends the billions that it's given for improving railway infrastructure itself. The truth is that much of that work is done by the supply industry. So it's a partnership between us and the supply industry, getting jobs done at reasonable cost on time. Our job is to manage the interface with the railway network, and the supply industry's job is to deliver on time, on budget and as cheaply as possible for the public purse.
Now there are lots of new technologies emerging in rail. What are you most excited about?
So I think our primary target for new technology is digital signalling. It enables simply more trains to run on the same amount of track. The other one I'd say is that, of course, we've got this huge quantity of structures, bridges, tunnels, viaducts, embankments, cuttings, and modern digital survey techniques, both from drones, generally from aerial photography, measuring stuff over long periods of time to predict failure rates, is very exciting, because we spend a lot of money on asset renewal and replacement, and more targeted replacement and renewal based on evidence of declining condition would be a much better way of spending less money more effectively.
How can we ensure that the future rail workforce is diverse?
We're providing a railway service for the whole community in Britain, so Network Rail itself is making a huge effort to make our working population in the railway inclusive of the nature of the population we serve. That means working hard to recruit more apprentices and graduates from ethnic groups and from women, and also general recruitment. I think we in the industry are beginning to take this seriously, which is good. The other thing that we've got to do as an industry is make basic working conditions better. So we're in a programme of properly having changing rooms and toilets for each sex, for stopping trains emitting human waste as they go down the track, all of which is about dignity at work and treating people properly. I would like to think, it won't happen overnight, but I'd like to think that the railway of the future is a more diverse place, and that we at Network Rail and our suppliers have encouraged that to happen.
So going on from that, what do you think is the long-term future of Network Rail and the rail industry as a whole?
The use of the railway has been growing steadily for the last 20 years or so, and whilst there's a bit of a hiccup currently, it's not evident that internet technology, mobile phones and portable devices is actually reducing the need to travel. People are starting to travel differently, but if the railway industry is able to respond to the demand for travel, then it's got a really bright future. If you join the railway industry now, if you're prepared to change where you work, who you work for and what you do, you've got a job for the rest of your working life.
Are you aware of RIA's efforts to promote a better and bigger rail sector?
So the Railway Industry Association is a good trade body. It vigorously represents its members. Network Rail is delighted to interact with it because we need a strong supply industry, and we need one that recognises where we're taking the railway in terms of digital railway and in terms of the 21st century techniques for asset monitoring and so forth. So we are delighted with the relationship. It's very important to me that the principal suppliers understand where the railway is going and join us in going there.
Okay, so Peter Hendy, thanks very much indeed for joining us.
Thank you.